Right? Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Or the only one. Or the what is. How can you describe the indescribable? How can you divide the indivisible? They call it non-duality, which is just another label or just another name, or Advaita. And you see what they do with that even divided into neo-Advaita. How many Advaitas can there be? And we all constantly move away from our natural state. There's no our even, the natural state, all it is. Havaki, the great man, they tell you that I am that. And that, innately, you know, everything is that. Which we put other words on it or labels to discriminate it. And again, we say the same thing over and over and over again until it's recognised. And that word, it's been cognised, you've seen it. But recognise it again and again until that becomes or recognised or realised as the actual. It's always been. Instead of just as we've seemingly have believed in this persona, this mask, this conceptual image. That we're a person, we're an individual. If it wasn't for what we like, for want of a better term, any term I put on it, is not it, that I call life. Negate your beingness or the life that's breathing and beating your heart, if you can. What would you be able to say? Would you say anything without that life essence that's utilising that pattern, shape and form and it has formed it to express you, or seemingly formed it? Because it's a phenomenal manifestation. And the definition of phenomenon is that which appears to be. It's only appearing to be so. Appearing to be real, solid and substantial. And what can it appear in? Emptiness in or on is all it can appear on. And that's what they tell you in the scriptures. It's called a cognising emptiness. Emptiness it has that capacity of putting the labels or the words and things on it. And it's a cognising it. We think we are cognising the emptiness, but that emptiness itself, the cognising is appearing in. There is an awareness of cognising or knowing. The basic screen is that what we call awareness. Anybody unaware right now?
Yeah.
No, you realise I'm not unaware. If you're not unaware, you must be aware. Anyone who's unconscious, that consciousness is appearing in awareness. And that's where all the labelling and the wording and the thinking about it comes about, because we call the consciousness. But emptiness is form. So it's this cognising emptiness that's patterning, shaping and forming all of this manifestation, all of it. The phenomenal manifestation. Definition of phenomena is that which appears to be. It's only seemingly so, appearing to be so. We appear to be this body, appear to be this mind, to be this person. Really have a look. As I say, the false cannot stand up to investigation. Have a look. Am I this body? Well, I say, yes, I am this body, because that's what we've reinforced so many times, that we are this body, and believed in it. Body, I'm this body mind. But innately, you know, you're not that, because in the very way you say it, you say my body, my mind. Wouldn't it make you realise that there's something that's claiming this body and claiming this mind? And what is it? Can the body or the mind claim itself? Me body, me body. Or nobody, nobody. But even in saying nobody, there's a body there to express to, isn't there? So anything that we said about it means there's an animating intelligence diffusing that pattern and expressing through it. So the forms, it's appearing as form, the forms are nothing but the emptiness. And could, if there wasn't the emptiness, the basic screen, could there be anything at all? And that's how it vibrates or patterns dualistically. From the nothingness, seemingly things arise. But things, I've got the label on things, we take everything. All this manifestation is made up of things. And can something come from no thing? So if there's no thing, it's not a thing, how can there be something? It's to say, how can there be day without night? How can there be silence without sound? Movement without stillness, winter without summer. So it's all vibrating into patterns, shapes and forms, which we'd put labels or words on. I say we, these patterns, you and I, which are basically no thing, appearing as something, being the no thing, which is absolute, you must be the absolute, because if that pattern that it's expressing through, which you call you, or I call me, or I, wasn't there, how could it express? How could it express? And have a look at it. When did it begin? We say the science and physics, so it began with the Big Bang. We've got to try to give it seemingly something substantial. So we've got to seemingly put a beginning onto it, and any beginning will have an end. And any end must have a beginning again. So it's all spontaneous, constantly in the state of change, transient. And that body, pattern, shape and form, is not static. Millions of cells dying right at this very moment. You don't notice it. And so you think you'll know death?
No.
If you don't notice the changes going on now in your body, the cells dying, how could you know when the ultimate change is going to be? The same as, do you know birth? Can you give yourself any static point or start? We put ourselves down on write a date, which is time, but it's time real as far as we know it. Isn't it a concept? This morning we put the clocks on an hour. What happened to that hour? So if there's such a thing as time and we can manipulate it like that, maybe it's not real. It's not so. And it's recognised here at this particular pattern that it's spontaneous, that everything is spontaneous. These words that are coming out now, I'm not saying what's the next word going to be, quick tell me so I can speak it. And while I'm speaking the word, I'm not thinking, take that breath, beat that hard. I know. All spontaneity happening, occurring. But we seemingly place the concept of time, the concept of space, or where we live, all the rest as a concept of a static form in space somewhere. So give it a beginning and an end and a time, a past, a future. And we're always in these dualistic appearance. Now, everything in this manifestation is things. Trees are a thing, the sky is a thing, the space is a thing, the birds are things, you're a thing, I'm a thing. Can something come from no thing? It can't. So when you realise that there is no thing anywhere in this manifestation, it's all no thing. Seemingly vibrating into things. So recognise that you are the ultimate no thing. The ultimate no thing, not the minus the body or the mind, but ultimately no thing. And there is no thing if we didn't have a word to say. Where does it all start from? As it tells you in the Bible, in the beginning it was the Word. That's when it all had any reasoning. Doesn't mean to say before the Word was around there wasn't any pattern shapes, there wasn't any phenomenal manifestation, appearance. Of course things appeared, but who's going to recognise or know that appearance if it was for some seeming separate thing? So, being no thing, being open to that which you can't be closed without having a thought or a concept or an idea or image, let it express as it's doing and allowing it, instead of getting in the way with the conceptual me and causing all the problems we've got, let it express naturally. And the tree outside the window has some beautiful purple rhododendron flowers on it. It's not saying what am I going to do in the next moment or next week. Not saying anything. And even when the seasons change and it gets after the flowers died out and the winter comes and the sap stops running, it's seemingly finished. But it's not finished at all. Because when the season changes again, it'll start and the leaves will come upon it again and the blooms will come and the flowers. Constantly transient, constantly changing. But it's not thinking about it, well, I've got to cause the sap to run, or whatever. Hasn't got any thoughts or any words. You know. But like everything in its manifestation, it's all life. What we call life, sentience, movement, activity. I call that life intelligence, energy. Intelligence is knowing. And have a look at the way all this manifestation shapes and forms, the stars, the planets, the earth, the seasons, all implying it's suffused with an innate intelligence, an innate knowing. And galaxies are forming, imploding, exploding, growing, changing, ice ages, seasons, everything coming about out there. But as nature itself, or the life essence, or whatever you like to call it, the godliness, put any time limit or boundaries on it? As it says in some of the scriptures, 10,000 years in thy sight is like a watch in the night. Gone, come and gone. And it does. But it seems to be substantial, and it seems to be solid, and it seems to be time-bound. And what's wrong with all that? Well, any psychological suffering that's going on in that pattern, any fear, any anxiety, any stress, any guilt, any shame, any remorse, is coming about on because of the beliefs we're taking. Instead of letting nature take its course and run itself out, we've attained this capacity of reasoning, which is a very useful capacity. And that's what it evolves with that reasoning. We use that reasoning. The natural way it evolves, the whole lot of it. But it's a dualistic vibration. Any vibration is always vibrating in the opposites. It's either a good vibration or a bad one, pleasant or painful, happy or sad. And we put those words on to discriminate it. Shakespeare told you that 300 or 400 years ago, it might have been a bit more. No, in the so-called concept of time, there is nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. We have this capacity of thinking, reasoning, useful capacity, self-destructive. Because we can work out so many wonderful things through the capacity of reasoning, but when we're relating it to this belief of me, we put the boundaries on, the limitations on it. It's me that's fearful, me that's be anxious, it's me that's unhappy or depressed. And how does that come about? Well, after all, I'm only human. In that label, human, is a boundary. It's a limitation. It's added something to the beingness. Human being. Take away the human of it. Call God, if you believe in the God that's seeming creator, that's creating all this non-creator. Take the supreme. God is the supreme being. Take away supreme, take away the human. Separate the beingness if you can, without that label. You can't say you're not. You're not being. Being is not becoming. It's pure being. It always was and always will be. Not as a human, not as a person, not as a poor, miserable, depressed, anxious or fearful one. But what happens? The energy of belief goes into all those limiting boundaries we put on it. And we're settled to be this human pattern, shape or form. And hasn't that changed? Wasn't there a time, going back as far as you can remember, as a little child when you first started to learn words? It's transient. It's changed since then. It's changing right now. We don't realise that. We think, it's static and stable. But there's thousands of cells dying in it right at this moment and being ripped up. That intelligence energy is not one solid or substantial mass as this body. This body is made up of thousands and thousands of cells. And each cell is suffused with that intelligence energy. It is life. And you are the life. Take your standpoint as that life. Not as the body, not as the mind, but that. I am that life. I am that absolute. I am that reality. I am all that appears and disappears and plays around. Yes. Absolute. Because it can't be separated. It never was, never can be, never will be. But see what we do with this word, among a lot of other words, we learn the word belief. We believe it is happening.
Yes. No.
But we believe it is happening. Look at my dictionary definition in belief. All these words we picked up or learnt or acquired have they've got dictionaries that make up dictionaries have got many different meanings to these words. Definition of belief is an unquestioned acceptance of something in the absence of reason. We've got this capacity of reasoning, but we only utilised in certain matters. We haven't utilised in this matter of we've taken on the belief what our parents told us, your little Billy or your little Cat or Jane or whatever, or Bob. We never questioned it, taken on, we've been this human form, this label. But when we question it, am I the body, am I the mind? Well, immediately, innately you know. You're not, because you say my body, my mind. Hang on a minute, if I'm saying my body, who's the me or the mind that's saying my body? Is it the body? Is it the mind that's saying that? It's translated as a thought appearing in the body. But could the body dig that one up of itself? Or it must be the innate recognition that's going on in it, that there's something looking at it from somewhere else. And we put the label on a lot of these things. We say my house, my car, my coat. And you know innately already that you're not the coat, the car or the house, but this my body. It seems a bit more substantial, a bit more solid. It seems to be more real, doesn't it?
Closer.
But who is the owner of this body? Is the body owning the body? Is the mind owning the mind? Or is there something that which these things appear on? Just the same as it is out there, the tree, the flowers, the sky, the earth. What are those appearing? We'll have a look. What's the earth appearing in? You know, the earth's rolling around in space.
Yes.
What's space? We call space a thing. But is space anything at all? No. Now, can you find a centre to space? Can you find a circumference to space? No. Does it have any beginning? Any static point where you say it began? If you can't fly, go out there and fly to the end of space if you can. Get in a fast plane. Or take it the other way, come back right in and find a centre. Find a dot where this so-called Big Bang began. And if it started with the Big Bang, where would it end? What was the Big Bang in for it to start in? So we're not this person, this persona, this subjectivity. We are the totality.
Yes.
Recognise that and be that. Be the living, the life itself. Because you take the life out of that pattern, the pattern doesn't last long. It's the life that's permeating it and keeping it there. It formed it, or it's forming it, still forming it, replacing cells constantly, renewing it. But take the life essence out of it. You've got a corpse.
Yeah.
That corpse is not going to last long. It's going to rot. But before it starts to rot even, there's no words in it, no breath in it, no heartbeat in it. But all those organs are still there before it rots. But what good are they without that intelligence, energy, or life, or godliness, or whatever label you like to put it on and discriminate? Wasn't functioning, patterning to the same essence that's functioning in this total manifestation, this world and all the so-called other worlds, if there are any, the stars, the planets, seasons and everything like that. You are that. Relax into it, settle into it, and see how long this psychological crap's going to go on. It'll still go on for a while, stir it up. But when you take the sting out of something, or the fangs out of the tiger, not going to do that much damage again, is it?
Yes.
When we take the sting out of this belief that we're a separate entity, an individual, and everything can attack us, life can be very different. Like out there in nature, when the clouds disappear in the sky, the sun's shining there in its radiance and heat and warmth, shines radiance in its brilliance, total clarity and brilliance. When all the conceptual imaging and thoughts not going on in these head, what's more, you must be attuned to that natural radiance of life that's within you, that's animating it. That same life that's the radiant essence, that is the love, it is the being, it is the seeing, the hearing, the tasting, touching, smelling, the thinking, doing all of that. And that's what you are. That's rambling on enough here for one day. If you go, and there's generally some good questions come from new people that are there.
No questions yet, darling.
No questions yet? Anybody there yet?
Oh yeah, then we have people. Matthew says, well, hang on a minute, when you were talking about time. Hang on a minute, with a big laughter.
What minute is that I'm going to hang on to? Try and grasp a minute.
Mm. Yes, Tas is saying, who is the me climbing my body, my mind? Thank you, dear lion-hearted Bob. This got through. It got through to Tas.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And it says, know the truth will set you free.
Mm.
And the truth, there must be the absence of the false.
Yes.
And when the false is there, it's the absence of the truth.
Mm.
It's see the two as one stick.
Yeah.
And love them both ends.
Mm.
As the Sagata says, love all of it or none of it. And if you're loving all of it, it's not a problem. If you're loving none of it, you haven't got a problem either. When we take it and divide it up, there's seemingly problems.
Mm. Yes, Monica says, thank you, this saved her tonight. Must be in America somewhere. Oh. And Mukti says, so much stillness permeates from your words more than ever this morning. Thank you, Bob.
Beautiful. Keep it going.
Yeah. Sally says, good morning, dear Bobcat and every nobody.
Yeah. Good.
And a lot of other good morning messages. And
You want to add to it? Or?
oh well, what can I add? More stillness? Good morning and good evening. Adding more stillness.
Yeah. Claiming the stillness?
My stillness is it's not yours. A second what Mukti wrote. I second what Mukti wrote, that's Tanya says. Tanya says
Yeah.
also.
She's seconding it.
Yes.
All those in favour? That's what she means by a second minute.
Yeah, because Mukti says about the stillness permeating from your words.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
To say all those in favour?
Yes, so it is about returning, coming back to that basic stillness. in which, like Bob beautifully said, we have this amazing capacity, the reasoning capacity, but we don't use it the right way. That reasoning capacity could be used to investigate and drop away all the falseness. I just got the cat fur everywhere on my face. So that is the right use of that beautiful gift. Ouch. And the way to investigate, Bob has few ways which are really good, one of which Tas already brought forward. Who is claiming the me that owns the body, that owns the mind? If this is my body, whose is it? Who is the me that has it?
What is the me? Me's a thought, me or I.
Mm.
And what's the thought? Where's the thought come from? The sense of presence, which you can't negate being present, this presence awareness right now, translates to the thought I or me.
Yeah.
And we take that to be a separate entity, a person, an individual, myself. Instead of recognising there's only one self, which is no self. Because without the one, could there be two? As we put label on it, one, then we can appear that many come from the one. Like in maths or anything like that, starting with zero, if it wasn't zero, how could there be any number on it at all?
Yeah. Yeah, if there wasn't a clean page, how would even the figure 0 or 1 appear on it? And yes, it is one without the second, but it's not even one. Like you say, can anything come from nothing? No, it can't. So there was a nothing, and everything that came out of that nothing seems to be something, but it's still the same nothing. It's just a rainbow.
Realise from that point, instead of just appearing as a separate entity, you have the whole cosmos, universe, or whatever you like to call it, behind you. Because it all stems from that. Everything that ever has, or ever will, or ever was, or ever likely to be.
Yeah.
It's all there. There's nothing separate that can have any static point or centre to it. No static point or no independent nature. Can't stand on its own. No internal. Bring it down, look inside and see one. Bring it back to see if there's any internal centre there. Go out in space, external. Zero, nothing. Not zero, nothing, but everything. So it doesn't need patterns to express through, shapes and forms. How could it express if it didn't?
Yeah.
So these bodies are formed to express through. And see the amazing intelligence in them. Every nerve, every sinew, every cell, every strand of hair, every brain, every eye. Amazing. And that's only in this human pattern. Look at all the other patterns, shapes and forms out there from this minutest little bacteria or mite to the hugest so-called thing. All the dinosaurs and that seem to have disappeared. But the wondrous ways they were when they were around, so seemingly around.
And the whole galaxies and the universes, the cosmic scale, and the life in a drop of water, and the life in the white blood cell.
And when that consciousness goes into abeyance every night when you go to sleep, and something stirs and you start to dream. Look at the wondrous places you can be in a dream, and the amazing things that can happen in a dream. Seemingly very solid, very substantial, very real. What happens to them when you wake up? Where are they? We don't realise that every morning we wake up, we're waking up to the dream that was seeming yesterday now. It's seeming continuing this morning from where we left off yesterday. Mm-hmm. But the sleeping dream we had, when it's gone forever. Unless we can recall it, you can't. This is the worst nightmare in the world. You can't recall it very often. Mm-hmm. But it makes an impression on your mind. You might recall it for a while. But you still know, even when you're recalling the dream, it was a dream. Yes. It never did happen. Mm-hmm. And seeing that, when you recognise it as a dream, as Nisargadatta says, you're dreaming a dream called the world, stop looking for ways out. The dream is not your concern. Your concern is you love one part, not the other. Love all of it or none of it. And this is the beautiful thing, he says after that, and the rest will be done for you. Settle back into that, and the rest, it'll happen by itself. Just the same as what were you doing about being brought into existence in the first place? Yeah. What were you doing when you were 9 months in the womb growing? And the first couple of years of your life? When you had no words. So you got on quite well out of then. That livingness was there. And it's going on right now.
And that is not to say that you may try or want to stop loving or hating anything, or try and love everything, including pain and suffering and poverty and misery. It can't do anything. Nisargadatta doesn't give an instruction to start loving or start hating. Yeah. No, it is just a pointer beyond the preferences. That if the preference to, I like this, I don't like this, I love this, I hate this, those preferences are part of functioning. The animals in nature, they also prefer certain weather to the other, the certain food to the other. The preferences arise. But he is pointing to that space beyond the preferences, beyond the duality of like, no like, love, hate, pleasure, pain, good, bad. Beyond that duality, there is that stillness from which all the appearance comes. And that stillness is your true nature. In that stillness, there is everything's done for you.
Yeah, it tells you that in Hensing Ming very simply. When the opposites are both absent, everything becomes clear and undisguised.
Yeah.
Make the smallest distinction, however, and we set it all up again. Heaven and earth are set infinitely apart. And heaven and earth and everything in them are set in. Hold no opinions for or against anything. We have opinions, sure. Always have opinions, but don't hang on to them. Opinions will come and opinions will go. They'll change like everything else. You might have had an opinion of somebody years ago, you might have a totally different opinion about them today or tomorrow or next week. But don't hold it, let it be. Hold no preferences. And you're not holding the preferences, what happens? You're free to move on. Everything becomes clear and undisguised. And it'll move on. Doesn't mean to say it's going to stay there. In that clarity and where it's clear and undisguised, changes will happen. Transient will happen, and it will happen. But is it going to make it a problem? Might appear to be, but soon recognised again and again and again.
We've got a couple of comments. So this is a word from Jane. The alleged me can only live in a memory. You are limitless. You are not limited to a memory or thought of you. Right here, right now, you just are. Full stop. No narration.
Beautiful.
Beautiful. And Mukti says, what is before zero? What is even before the screen of awareness? Nothing, no separation. And Cliff, morning Bob and Kat, listening as I can without comment. What questions are left to ask? Love to you and everything. There you go. What questions are there to ask?
Cliff,
yes. Yeah, that's
Thank you, Cliff. Beautiful.
That's the freedom. When the questions drop off, there is no one who is asking the question, there is no one who needs the answer. The funny thing about self-realization is that you realize that there is no self. That life just goes on and leaves everything. Life is leaving the body, life is leaving the trees, the cats, and nobody does anything. It doesn't have to be self to be realized. The self-realization is no self to be. Now, Jane, we are the unlimited potential, life itself, one without the second. And Catherine, thanks so much for your charity, Bob and Kat. Love from Catherine and James.
Hi, Catherine and James.
Thank you.
Good to hear from you.
Good to hear from you, yes. How can you realize the waking life is just a dream? This is Tanya. And the seeing, being located in the head, body is just a thought, right? And Rohan, the opinion can only thrive if there is someone to hold it, right, Bob? It is seen that there is no opinion holder. It's just a thought like any other. Precisely so.
When we try to hold them, that's the problem.
Yeah, because then you have someone who is holding on to. If the opinion comes and passes just like a cloud on the sky, some clouds are passing slowly, some clouds are passing very fast, but they always pass. So if there is an attachment to opinion, then look where is the source of attachment? Who is there to defend opinion, to believe in opinion, to embody the opinion? Because opinion may be there, or preference may be there. Preference may even be there as long as the body is there.
Well, they will be. It'll always, while we think, it'll always vibrate in the opposite.
Yes. I thought Rohan was answering to Tanya, but maybe we should answer, or you should answer first. How can you realize the waking life is just a dream, and the seeing, being located in a head body, is just a thought? Body is just a thought, right?
Yeah. Well, ask yourself, look at it, ask yourself what's wrong with right now if I don't think about it. Now have a look at that.
Yes.
What can you say without a thought? You realise you can't say anything without a thought, because every word you say or speak or think is a thought. But have you stopped breathing? Has your heart stopped breathing? Hair and fingernails stop growing? Food stop? If any of those things ceased, that means the animating life essence is still functioning there, but thought is not. You're not dividing it with thought or conceptualising it. So it's just the awareness that's appearing and expressing it, thought-free.
Yeah.
Just a spontaneous movement, vibration, and that's what they call no mind. Not that we've killed the mind. There never was a mind in the first place, such a thing as something. But no mind means a mind free of thought. That's what they call no mind. And you realise that so-called no mind is prior to thought. It's what's there in the pure essence or awareness or whatever you like to call it, that's there, which the thoughts appear on. That body wasn't there as a vehicle through which it expresses through, and the words or sounds weren't there. And word or thoughts, which are just a vibration of energy, wasn't expressing through it. What could it express through? It's expressing through other things, but where would you be, or what would you be without expressing through that pattern?
Yeah.
Now that's your true nature. That's what you need to do, instead of recognising. How do you realise that you are this person? Or you've taken on the belief without question, and keep reinforcing that belief. Find the static point in it anywhere if you can. You'll say it's in my head, or it's in my heart, or in my throat, or in my stomach. Well, look there. Really look at it. And you realise if you say it's in my head, how do you know? Wouldn't you be looking at it from somewhere else to say it's there? If it's in the heart, you wouldn't look at it. So wherever you go back to where you think you're looking at it from, and see if you can find a real solid static point there. This is where it begins. Because when you see it looking at it from somewhere else, wherever you go back to where you're looking at that from, is that there? So if there's no static point, there's no external or no internal. It just is.
Yeah, but that's I really like Tanya the way you actually put questions, because there is you can answer that question in both ways. The seeing being located in the body is just a thought. Now, if you think of the camera, or the camera that is looking at us, for example, it is located in the telephone, but is the awareness of the image located? Look, you see it, I see it, we see it, everyone else see it. So the awareness of the seeing through the camera looking at us is not there. So you can say that the seeing is located, the eyes are the cameras, the instrument through which seeing happens. But you are the awareness. You are not behind your eyes. You are not in the body. You are the awareness that is everywhere. It's just using that camera for the time being. So somehow you actually take the body to be the camera, or to be the costume, the virtual reality costume. But you can also say that seeing being located is an idea, that it is idea, because the whole world is really an idea. The moment you stop thinking, the seeing may be happening, but if you really stop thinking, if you really stop the brain, the world disappears. The world is basically projected, and the eyes and what the eyes are seeing is just one content of the seeing. It's like eye is the projector. You're shutting that image of the world. The mind interprets it. So without the mind really as such, the interpreting device, the seeing may be happening, but there is nothing to be recognized as an object. And it may happen with the brain injury, or it may happen under certain drugs, and it actually naturally happens to the child, to the young newborn baby, that it doesn't interpret the images. It takes time before the computer there learns to distinguish objects and sounds and create the world as we see it. And that world is constantly being updated anyway. So it's a really good question. And the third way of looking at that question, how important it is to have the clear understanding of the mechanism. I know it is exciting, I know it is seductive, that the mind wants to know, I want to get it, how it really works. But ultimately, you can look from different angles, but ultimately it is a mystery. It really is. The mystery, how it all came to existence out of thin air, out of the nothing, emptiness vibrating into forms. And now the explanation that it happened this way, as like the camera, or it happened that way, that this is all projected or imagined, or it happened that way. Every single explanation, and even all of them together, are still limiting the miraculousness of the mechanism. So the best possible attitude is just the attitude of marveling or wonder at that phenomenon. The body, the head, the location, the seeming location is an idea. It is an idea. And at the same time, it's a good enough, close enough description of what's happening within the dream. Because when you dream at night, you also have that first-hand perspective from that center. Even though your body is sleeping and your eyes are closed on the bed, there is some dream body that is moving around, and it has the eyes open and it sees things. But as you know, they are thought. This is all thought. The location in the dream, the movement in the dream, the seeing in the dream, they are all just a projection of the mind. Same as this. The emptiness projected itself a vehicle through which it can see, the two little cameras, and the seeing happens through it. But what is it? It is the emptiness, it is the pure awareness projecting, giving itself this VR costume, and the world comes with it. Like you put the virtual reality goggles, we have one, and suddenly you have three-dimensional image of being on the beach and walking on the beach, because it is attached, the beach is attached to your eyes. This world works in a very similar way, because the interpreting machinery puts the meaning to the homogeneous blob of like Rohan says, of or was it someone else? Oh, it was Jane, of infinite possibilities, the unified field, so-called. It's a good question. See if you could actually rest in, I don't really know, I don't get it, I don't understand it. Or if you go with any one of those little helpful images that comes from the physics or mechanics.
We translate it to this, and the seeing is happening spontaneously, naturally and effortlessly. As soon as you say, I see, what are you relating it to? A subject, a seer.
Yes.
And who's the subject, a seer? Or the seer, you believe me or I. I am seeing. And what I'm seeing has become the object. Have you seen the chair, the table, or this thought or that thought? So we're seeing is being divided into subject-object. But can there be a seer, a subject, without seeing? It can't be, could there?
No.
Can there be an object without seeing? So what's the actuality there? Isn't it the seeing itself? And that's spontaneous, natural thing. Everybody is seeing right now, hearing right now, thinking right now, tasting right now, touching, smelling, functioning is going on right now. But we divide it into that myself, me, and other, duality. The non-dual is divided conceptually, conceptually, by a thought, by a sound, by a sound's thought, by a vibration of energy, which we take to be real.
Yeah. Joe, we get angry. In hindsight, we see that we had a feeling. We never understood that feeling, yet we blame the others or want it fixed by the one that made us angry. How do we own the feeling when at the time we did not recognize it? And Richard says, never mind. And Joe, forgiveness. Oh, Mukti is answering your question for the seeing being located in the head or body is just a thought. Mukti says the seer, seeing and so-called object are not separate. Yes. And correct, Bella, says Jane. And I noticed the thought of desiring to know and get this. Maybe the seeking is seeming to veil that which I am. Absolutely. I think we have to come back to Joe and answer the question. The phone will not let me do it. Oh, it will. Before we go further. The feeling. When there is a feeling and we don't recognize there is a feeling and we blame someone for it and we want them to fix it. And how do we own it when we don't recognize it?
Well, if you don't recognise it, how do you know it?
You don't, yeah. Yeah, that's what Richard said, never mind. You know, if you don't recognize it, well, that's too bad. Go on and find the moment in which you do recognize. Because obviously when you write it, you do recognize that there was a feeling that hasn't been recognized. So you always come back to this moment now. And whatever you recognize now, who knows? Maybe, yes, as you say, forgiveness is needed. Maybe you have to forgive, first of all, yourself for not recognizing if you believe there is a self and it should, because, you know, we have all that spiritual ambition. Oh, I should always be present and alert. And no, there is no I that should do anything. And there is no need for being alert. The pattern of body does its thing. The pattern of behavior, of mind, of responding or reacting does its thing. And whenever the awakening or realization is available, go with it. When it is not, forget it, it's past, it's dead. Or well, perhaps maybe when in a moment of realization one who was blamed or hurt needs to be given apology, that will come also.
Any feeling is a sensation.
Yes.
It's all a sensation. Be utterly open with the five senses wide open. Unfixated awareness. We're not fixating on it. Sensation can be labelled fear, anger. As soon as we're labelling it as the feeling is put the old label on it, we're labelling it with a dead image. See it fresh and new, though you're sensing it right now, you know, with that sensation.
Yes, and I hope and wish that realization will habituate within you. So acknowledge every time when you do experience anger or feeling and you have that awareness or that understanding at the moment. Forget about the moments when it doesn't happen, because the more attention you put on that moments when you're screwed, when you know you forgot it didn't happen, why wasn't I awake? Let them go. The moments in which the feeling or the emotion or the reaction or the blaming happens and there is an awareness, celebrate that awareness, because then attention, then you are watering the flowers and not the weeds. You're focusing on reinforcing positive habit rather than trying to condemn yourself for negative. It's almost, you know, the mind, especially this so-called subconscious mind, it's like training a dog. You give it a reward every time you want the behavior repeated. You don't punish it for the bad behavior, because this is just ineffective. So you have the moments of anger, you have the outbursts of blaming or trying to fix, and you also have moments in which you are conscious, you are awake, that you know that you're doing it, you can't stop it because it's so mechanical that it just perpetuates itself, but there is a consciousness present. Oh yeah, I'm doing it, I can't stop, but I'm doing it. This consciousness is to be acknowledged and reinforced. What the body does is a secondary thing, because the habits, the moment the consciousness is present, that awareness of whatever the mechanical habit is present, those habits will not be that strong. They will not be as mechanical, because they need full attention, and now part of attention has been withdrawn, and the conscious awareness of watching have part of the attention. So habit is weaker. It gets only half of the stream. That's the way to recondition. And of course, it's not in your hands. This is just a reminder to be inspired. Just let yourself be reminded, renewing of your mind, like Bob says, as much as you can. And I know there are different ways to keep that reminders on, and you're doing it, so it's all good. Now what Tanya is saying, that she's noticing the thought of desiring to know and get this. Maybe the seeking is seeming to veil that which I am. That's exactly it.
Start from the fact you already are that, whether you believe it or not at this moment.
And whether you get it or not. Whether you understand
Then
particular.
Then you haven't got that underlying thought, I've got to get it, or I've got to try. No, I'm already that. And then you need to relax into it, and relaxing into it, it'll express itself to you more clearly.
Yeah, there is only one thing. There is only one thing that needs to be understood and fully grasped. The answer is not in the mind.
Yes.
So intellectual understanding of how eyes function, or how projection functions, or how the division seer seen, they are all helpful pointers, but you don't have to get any of it at all. The only one thing, answer is not in the mind. If you get this, then whatever mind wants to know, wants to grasp, because of course it is pleasant, it is exciting to understand certain mechanism. It is exciting to understand how the moon rolls around the the Earth and that Mars planet being so close now and easy to watch and nice and red and big. It's nice to have those models. It's pleasant to have intellectual understanding. It's pleasant to speak few foreign languages also. But this is really not necessary. You don't have to have any intellectual understanding of mechanics of the body to realize that you are already that. Just noticing the desire to know. Just notice that desire to know is really for the pleasure and for the ease of mind, to relax that grasping tendency. But it's not necessary. It's only one thing that mind needs to understand, that the answer is beyond it, beyond it. Like Bob said, the first line of inquiry, which Tas brought on the beginning, who is the me that claims the body, that claims the understanding, that wants to know, that seeks. The second one, Bob was saying, what's wrong with right now, if I don't think about it? And then you drop that grasping, trying, and you see how beautifully peaceful and easy life goes on, does its thing, when the thought is paused for a moment. There is no understanding going on in the mind when there is no thinking, and yet there is nothing wrong. And the one thing that you need to know, you already know all the time. You may forget it, you may lose sight of it, but you know that you are. And there is nothing else that could be known. Everything else is believed. It's only knowing of your existence. Everything else is believing what somebody else told you. So the ultimate wisdom of I am, you already have all the time. Even if mind shows up and wants to know this, that, and the other, it's like a child. It wants to play. It wants to keep the entertainment. But what you need to know, you know. And Rohan says, that's the humility that they talk about in the great traditions, to be able to say, I really don't know, and be happy to rest in that. Beautiful. Yes. And it's a sweetness in finding, yes, joy and comfort in, look, they're just explanations, ideas, they all beliefs, they all some sort of a models of the reality, which is a mystery. And I don't really know it.
It's another one we need to look at, is humility. We can be proud of our humility. Oh. So the true humility is when there's no one to be either proud or humble.
Yes.
That's the natural and spontaneous humility. But look at me, I'm an humble person. I don't know, that's bullshit.
Of course, yeah. It's just like someone who constantly needs to assert, oh, I'm honest, I'm honest, I'm honest. Well, they need to convince themselves and obviously everyone else, because they know how false it is, how dishonest they are. Same, someone who needs to assert, I'm humble, is proud of their humility. That's not being humble. But yeah, the way Rohan presents it, yes, is a true humility.
Yes, that's right.
That's, yeah, in the great traditions. I really don't know. And happily resting. I really
And the very fact I don't know, there's a knowing there that tells you don't know.
Yeah. And not needing to know, what a freedom, not to need to have it all worked out.
The knowing can't know, but it's pure knowing.
Yes. And in that space, enjoying intellectual knowledge, knowing its limitation, is not taken away. It's not. I'm still enjoying watching a nice documentary about cosmos or life, and we both watch them, and there is a certain line of understanding, intellectual fun presented in it. It's still enjoyable, but you don't really believe it fully, because you know it's just taking down the mystery into the linear, taking the multi-dimensional to the flat sort of cause-effect type of a relationship, which is not true, basically, because there is no singular cause and effect. It's a multi-dimensional. I noticed that thought of desiring to know, and that's Mukti, that's what Tanya was saying. Mukti answers that can. Tanya was saying about the desiring to know and seek, that is veiling. Yes. So Jane says, who is desiring to know? Me, the mind, memory, the narrator can never know. That's exactly right. Yeah. Yeah, that's the first line of questioning which Tas brought. Who is the me that wants to know? Who is the me that is seeking? Who is the me that is trying to attain or grasp or get or become? That's still looking for that non-existent dream entity. And Jo says she loves it. It's great to laugh. It is. Caroline, Tanya, I kept ruminating on the one who is searching is its own way. Yes, so Caroline used to ruminate on the one who is searching is in its own way. Yeah, the seeker is a veil. Yeah, absolutely. The seeker is the fictitious entity. And when the seeker is gone, there is nothing to seek, because there is no one to seek. And there's, of course, nothing to be found, because there's nothing that has ever been lost.
As I say, the veil being lifted is like the cloud being removed from the sky, obscuring the sun. The clarity must be there.
Yeah.
And
so when the seeker is gone, there is no questions that needs answers, because there's no one there to ask them. Another rude way of saying it is, who wants to know? And Jo says, celebrate. Love that. Thank you. Yes, celebrate every time you have your Buddha nature shining through. And John David, not knowing is a hard sell for those trying to work it out in the mind. It is heartfelt, as Bob says, for those struggling, as I have. Let me just say, for those struggling as I have, let me just say that Bob's supreme patience and love changed my life.
Thank you, John David.
Yes. And Tanya is answering on Caroline was saying, I keep ruminating on the seeker being in its own way. Tanya says, thanks, Caroline. I notice with no thoughts or searching, there is clarity. No me there, no seeker. The one who is searching is probably just a thought. Is certainly just a thought. It could be a bundle of thoughts, a cluster of thoughts and memories and past experiences held together by attention trapped in that fictitious cage.
Yes, the thinker is the thought.
Yes.
I think.
Yes, who are you without the thought? Do you have the body, the mind, the location, the age, the nation without the thought? Are you a man or woman without the thought? You can't say. You're free, you're freedom. And Jo is smiling now. Beautiful. And Tanya, what a relief. I don't need to get anything. I know that I am. Starting as I am already that resonates so much. Nothing wrong if I don't think about it. Thank you for the beautiful clarity. Thank you for your mighty questions. They always help us to keep the meeting on. So, and Caroline, just sending a heart to Tanya. And Tanya, the me is just a thought or pattern of thoughts. I can't find the me that wants to know. That's right, you can't. It's not there. It's just
knowing,
wanting to know.
Can't find the me, but the knowing's there.
Yes.
The knowing that you can't find the thought.
You can't find the thought, and the knowing that there is a wanting, that there is this pattern of...
So you must be the knowing.
That's right. Yeah, knowing's always there, even if there is nothing to know. That potentiality is there. So you must be the knowing. It never changes. And Not knowing is hard sell for those trying. That was what John David says. And Taz says, thank you, John. Yeah, that was a beautiful way of saying it. And Jane is joining, Taz and John. And Julia has a question. Who gives a shit? Bravo, Julia. Yes, who wants to know? Who gives a shit? And Jane answers to Julia, rough. Sally, resting in the simple stillness just seems too simple to the mind. Well said.
Good, but realise no matter how simple it feels, if it works, it's right.
That's right. And then even if the mind is jumping like a monkey from the tree to tree, from the thought to thought, that stillness is always there. Just between those jumps of the monkey, the stillness is always there. And at times, love for the stillness emerges. And love is always such a great help. Love for the truth, love for liberation or for God or for whatever. Love in any form, it helps. Even self-love, which means I don't want to suffer. That's self-love. That always helps. And Jessie, I like the one, who am I to judge? Yeah, cool. Yes, coming back to stillness or resting the mind in stillness is naturally a challenge because the whole life, I'll put some cream on it, we rehearsed the narrative. As we were little children learning language, constantly rehearsing what we're going to say, what we're going to answer to this one, or how we're going to behave into that one. And the narrative became nearly constant. People who are a little bit happier than the others manage their narrative, for example, by falling in love in music. So instead of having that narrative yapping all the time, they have tunes in the head singing. But there's still noise. There is still noise going on in the head. To break that pattern may not be too obvious. But what investigation gives you, that self-referential narrative drops off when you realize that there is no self. When there is no one there, and it is really, really taken on board. I mean, if it is really realized, the thoughts like, oh, what am I going to do, or what am I going to say, make no sense because there is no I. Or what they're going to think of me makes no sense because there is no me. So this one drops off. Doesn't mean that all of the narrative has to drop off. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it gets quiet for a long period of time. Sometimes it doesn't really matter because nobody cares. Nobody, like Julia says, who's there to give a shit. Or the music goes in the head, or it doesn't. Or, yeah. We got it mostly quiet. Hardly ever you can kick the thoughts to start discussion. But it doesn't matter either way. Kat, is it not the case that the stillness is love? It is the case in that way of understanding love as stillness. But you also have personalized meaning of love, which, you know, people use in a common language, like I love pizza. That's the kind of devalued, like Nisargadatta says, love everything, love all of it or none of it. Loving all of it is a stillness because you don't distinguish between anything. Without distinguishing, without the labeling, then it naturally falls that love equals stillness.
Love is life. Life is love.
Yeah.
There is only love, if you like that.
Yes. And Julia says to Rohan, it is in my experience that love is stillness. Stillness is love. Yes. Yeah. Love is life. But then again, yeah, we use words. As Bob said on the beginning, we put so much different meanings on words that it's hard to communicate because I hear the word and I assign my meaning, and yours might be different. And then we seem to agree with each other, and we completely on a different pages because the meanings behind the words are different. And it works both ways. We may disagree on something that deep in heart we feel the same because of the communication and meaning given to the words, the definitions. There is not a new comment for a moment.
Yeah. Well, everybody seems to be going on pretty well.
Yes, which is so enjoyable.
It is, yeah.
It's so good to see. Oh, now we have Catherine or James. I intended to thank you for your great clarity. Perhaps I mistyped what you read as charity. Oh, did I? I'm sorry. But then I realized how true that is true that is too, for your commitment to sharing this amazing truth. Yeah, I'll have a look, because amazing you put X instead of Z. But I'm sorry if I misread it, or whichever way. Yes, you're right. It seems to be true either way. And yes, thank you, James. Ouch, I have something more here. And and James also sends his love to you too, from Catherine. Yeah, our love to both of you. Will be nice to see you when the lockdown is over. And I know you're somewhere far away. But yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry if I misread sometimes or mistype, or I'm not the greatest at the job, but that's all you have.
Like celibate and celebrate, isn't it?
Yes. Yes, I was actually diagnosed with dyslexia after I've graduated of the hardest university degree academy in Poland, in which average 30% graduates. And I had it all along, but they say that dyslexia doesn't make you stupid. It makes you work harder to find alternative solutions, and it's on the rise in the society because of a need for the creative thinkers. So yes, after 18 years of a really hard education, I realized that I could have a free pass from the doctors to have lower expectations, which I didn't have. But the byproduct is that I'm going to be mistyping and misreading things at times. Apologize. Charity begins at home, you never left. That's Jane. Thank you. And Catherine and James, you are perfect. Thank you. I love you guys. I don't take credit for any of faults here. That's life. I blame it all on God. I used to, but not anymore. Mukti, you do a fabulous job of threading all our comments and replies. Appreciating you so much, Kat. Thank you, dear. That was Mukti. Thank you very much. Yeah, I would definitely do a better job if I could. Yeah, maybe as we go along. I second that, Jane says. Thank you, Jane. Bravo, Kat. You have done an amazing job keeping this message alive. Any updates on the book? Oh, dear John. I'm writing it. Thank you. Yes, we do. We do together. And I used to blame it on karma, Dale Allison says. Good idea.
Hi, Dale. Haven't seen you for a while.
Yes, yeah, she's with us every week, but not always commenting. Yes, good to see you. Yeah, as long as you stay innocent, because deeply in your heart you are that innocent life force. even if through that mechanism someone get hurt unintentionally, because life only loves and only gives. Yes, the blaming is, Joe was saying, is actually a way to staying innocent. Although when you realize that this is just a game of patterns interacting, you may find the apology also being there. And Rohan, dyslexia is only a label. In fact, because the word is the problem, it is probably an advantage in discovering the truth. I heard that opinion also, and it's on the rise. It seems to be a neurotransmitter chemical difference, which kind of breeds creative thinkers rather than people who memorize. I don't know. It's as you say, it's a label. It's only exists because we label it out of the homogeneous blob of pure probability. D. A guru was recorded by someone as saying that in early meditation the mind searches for interference and does a duet with it. Another recorded it as engaging in duel. Maybe. No difference. Haha, that's a nice one. Yeah, it's like celebrate. You have duet or duel. The mind in the meditation. Mind searches for interference and does duet with it. Another recorded it as engaging in duality. Good one. And Tanya, yeah, so happy to hear you're writing a book. Look forward to reading it one day. Yeah, it's going slowly. It will, provided nothing else distracts me from it. We have a lot of distractions, apart from work and other things that are all perfect. And because it is really mostly what Bob refined in that over 40 years, that's why we do it together. And there will be a lot of highlights that are so precious in Bob's pointing, only structured in the way that hopefully will be more memorable as and anchors that could bring up the pointer when necessary. We'll see. That's it for the comments?
Is it?
Yes.
Yeah, well, thank you all very much. Been very great to hear all the input that's coming in.
Yes, this is so enjoyable. See the light shining through.
And how this spreads.
How this spreads, also how it really takes find home.
Yeah. So each one can express it in their own way, and there will be others available to hear the way it's being expressed through them.
And for now, yes, we can greatly appreciate every pearl that comes out from you, because it is the reflection of that light of love.
Yeah.
It is hard to find audience, though, because we spoke with few people. They say they have no one to talk to about that insights that come through. But here, they really, really appreciate it. So keep sharing them. And now, John David, good to hear from my family all over the world today. Love to you all.
Love to you, John David.
And yes, and all. And thank you so much, everyone, for this space. Thank you, Bob and Kat, so much. This is
Thank you,
love
Mukti.
from Mukti and Taz and Jane and Caroline and Dale and Amarnath and Rohan. I love you, Bob and Kat. Thank you, who are none other than me. That's
right.
Beautiful. And Julia, Thank you so much, Bob and Kat, for doing this. Whenever I get caught up in my head, I listen to one of your talks and my head shuts up. Keep shining, you too, Catherine and James. And Amarnath, reflection is within and without.
And that's the first one that Eminence put on today, is it?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. But good you here with us, Amarnath.
That's
I
so
guess the
good.
time difference, you know?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, we're gonna be wrapping up right now because we were shifting the daylight saving. And Tanya says, thank you also for pointing towards the stillness that I am, relaxing into being. So much love and gratitude overflowing. Love all the expressions expressed today by the one essence. And D, no need to read this one. Oops, sorry. Dual is a fight. Dual is two. Thank you for clarifying it. Yeah, I didn't actually get it. English is my second language. I had no idea that dual is a fight. But that makes it even better.
Doer is what?
Dual is a fight. Dual is two. When Dee was saying about the mind being in duet, distracting the meditation, which was translated or transcribed by someone else as duel, not a dual. Yeah, that makes it even clearer, even better. Yeah, thank you. So much gratitude and love from Sally and Cliff and everyone. And yes, that's
good.
That's it.
That's it.
Yes.
Thank you all. Love you.
Thank you. Lots of love. Thank you very much.